Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs. Hey, DAMFAM, nice to see ya. And welcome to the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Do. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Friday, August 1st, 2025. So, flipping over a new page on the calendar, and it is a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, he, Mr. Beaver A. And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, but I do have a little word from him for all of you, freshly made this morning, actually. So just a couple of minutes ago. So we'll have that for you. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvin Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health today? Mine is doing very well. Again, a little sleepy and tired. Short nights every night this week. Today is the day my beaver sweetie heads off to Romania for a month. So for next little while, it's going to be at the Beaver Lodge. It's going to be Homo Alone. I love it. I've been waiting all week to do that. I'm gonna miss him so much. I'm gonna miss my cuddles and my snuggles. But he's has a wonderful time with family and some much needed time. He's gonna do some hiking in the mountains and have a little solo and quiet time and stuff. And that's always good for the soul. He used to do that a lot as a kid, going hiking in the mountains with his family. So it's going to be, as we say in French, un retour à la source, return to the source a bit, and connecting with nature and communing with family. It's going to be really good for him. I wish I could go, but unfortunately, I would not have been able to keep up with my foot in terms of the walking, the tourism, in particular in the mountains. I definitely would not have been able to do the hiking in those mountains. So yes, I'm going to. I have a couple of things planned for myself for the month that I am going to get to do, but so don't feel bad. But yes, this is going to be very good for him. So I'm very, very happy. I'm also in a pretty good mood because I had some quality time with a friend last night. My friend Erin, my girl. Hello. Nice to see you if you're watching. Love ya. We went out yesterday to the Thousand Islands Theater in Gananoque to see Mary Poppins, the musical. And I have to admit, I did not know the movies or the books. I sort of generally knew the story, pop culture and stuff. You pick up a few things, but in watching a couple of compilation shows, I did see the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious number, and then the one where they're dancing with the penguins and stuff from the movie. But I've never actually seen the movie beginning to end. Never read the book. Didn't see the sequel movies. I'd never seen the musical. Um, Apparently, the musical is slightly different than the cartoon movie, the Disney one, because they also take stuff from the book. But I freaking loved it. It was really, really, really good. Of course, the Thousand Islands Playhouse, even though it's in a smaller town, it is a fully professional theater. So with people with credits and credentials from all over. So the quality of the singing and the acting was way above community theater. This was like full professional. There was even like a tap number in there, and I love tap. So I was just happy, giddy little beaver, and we got great seats too. We were second row. So beautiful night. Now I know what the story is, beginning to end, and um, I I really, really liked it, I have to say. So yeah, a little late coming in life to have seen everything, Mary Poppins beginning to end and knowing the full story. But I like going into shows if I don't know what it's about, and not reading about it, and like just sitting in the audience and say, okay, surprise me, let me discover it as it's happening in real time. Um, so yeah, a great night of music and dancing and excellent company with Aaron, and I left the theater wanting to dance and sing myself. So that puts me in good spirits for the big audition I've got coming up in September, early September. We'll be auditioning for Guys and Dolls here, and yeah, and actually, uh, I know it's probably way above my ability, but seeing the show there, the playhouses. If you've never had a chance to be there, it's just a beautiful theater, beautiful playhouse. Um, it's like I'm sitting there looking at my friend Aaron. And I'm going, my God, I want to audition. I want, I want to perform here for something. There are open auditions and there are opportunities to do that, but the caliber of actor, singer, dancer that was on that stage is uh, probably above my pay grade. But it could be fun if you get an opening to go to an audition at that level and see what it looks like. So I may throw my hat in the ring one of these years and see whether or not there's something for me there. But it's a great playhouse, great show. Staff was lovely, freshly renovated as well, so just gorgeous on the inside. Has a nice back deck, just looking over the water, so people might arrive a little early, sit down, have a drink. It's just a beautiful atmosphere and a great venue. For a town that small that it has a big draw for local tourism, and it's managed exceptionally well. So my hats off to everybody at the Thousand Islands Theater Playhouse in Gananoque. You do a really good job, and you put on some really fantastic shows, I have to say. So yeah, I'm a happy beaver. Dum diddly dum diddly dum diddly dum diddly. All right, let's take a little look into the magic monitor and see who is with us today. We have, let's see, Kit Christian with us. Bon matin, mon ami. Kit Elaine, Kit Cat W, wishing a good morning to everyone. Kit Saucy also wishing everyone good morning. Kit Elaine saying that it's only 15 degrees Celsius where she is, so a cooler morning after a pretty intense heat wave that we've had lately here. Kit Saucy saying that they finally got some rain out in her part of the country, because I remember seeing in the chat over the past few while complaining about how dry it's been there. So that's good. Kit Jillian saying good morning to all of us. Kit Grace is here, wishing good morning to all nasty Canadians and others. Mr. Grizzly in the chat. Hey, my friend, how are you? I miss you so much. Hope you have a great day at work today. and looking forward to the show on Monday so that we can be together again. There you go. Attending a breakfast meeting off campus. There we go. Let's see, who do we have as well? Kit Tabby G giving us a wave. Uh, Saucy going, ooh, breakfast meetings, fancy. Kit PNC Bio wishing all of us good morning as well. Toronto Dance and Wagwan. Argosy Acres saying good morning all. Who else do we have? Hyper T007 wishing us all buen dia gente. Kit Argosy Acres already smashing the button. I love it. Setting the example. Thank you so much. Kit Uncover the News wishing everyone good morning. Nona Carol is with us as well. And do we have anybody else? Kit Frankie. Hey, how are you? Lovely to see you. And let's see. Kid Bucky is with us as well. Good stuff. We usually have a lot more with more members of the DAMFAM on Fridays, which is very nice. Il today is with us as well, wishing us good morning. My dogs are goth. Hey, lovely to see you. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us today. And Kit Tom, last one sliding across the plate for a good morning through the magic monitor. Hello. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, Kits and Cubs. Before I get started with the show in earnest, yesterday we talked a little bit about Le Grand Dérangement, and there was a book I was trying to remind you of, tell you about, and I couldn't remember the title. And I did a little research after the show, like I promised I would. And the book is called Jacques et Marie, Souvenirs d'un peuple dispersé, who literally translated would be Jacques and Marie, Souvenirs of a Dispersed People, by an author called Napoleon Bourassa. So if there's any of you, I'm not sure if there's an English translation of it, but for those of you in the audience who happen to speak and read French and would enjoy a good read, a bit of a historical fiction novel, but still very much founded in history. Jacques et Marie, Souvenirs d'un peuple dispersé by Napoleon Bourassa. I highly recommend it. It really stayed with me when I was a kid. Well, I mean, I remember it right about 40 years after I read it, still very vividly, and how much I enjoyed it. So it's a very good book. But Kid Uncover, I should have assumed that there would have been one, but found a heritage minute with regard to Le Grand Dérangement. So if you do not mind, I would like to show it to you for those who might not be as familiar with the story. Because, having been born here in Canada and being francophone, this is something, we learn of, pretty early on in school kind of stuff. But, well, we might have some new Canadians, people that arrived later, not in school years, and maybe sort of heard about something about the Acadians, but don't really know what it's about. So here we go. Just opening up with a nice, easy opening today with a little bit, well, a tough subject, but heritage minutes are always very well done and well produced. So here we go.
Our ancestors came here from France to build a better life. We lived here happily for generations. Until the British decided they wanted our land. The men were called to a meeting and then imprisoned. They demanded we swear an oath to their king and took everything, regardless. We were forced from Acadie, the only home we knew. Mais l'Acadie n'existera plus.
From 1755 to 1763, over 10,000 Acadians were ripped from their homeland. Despite this, Acadian culture endures in Atlantic Canada.
There you go, kids and cubs. I believe the person at the end making the comment might have been Antonine Maillet, if I'm not mistaken, who's the author of a book called La Sagouine. And it's often also used. There's also a play on it, and she's become a very, very, very famous for that and for the person, the character that she played. So I believe that might have been Antonine Maillet. Again, another thing, if you're looking to read up some stuff, uh, La Sagouine, which is yeah, you could go to the library, but it is a play, and uh, it's again a very good one. So yeah, just wanted to bring it to you because, as we mentioned, that David Staples guy was doing the whole sort of white victimization thing, Anglo-Saxon white victimization thing. And a lot of things that people don't know is that when the deportation of the Acadians took place, the grand upheaval, the great upheaval, um, people were being led to boats and being told, like this, okay, well, we got to separate you over here. It's for a matter of safety and security, and whatnot. And turns out they all thought that they would be, once they went through whatever processing, that they would be meeting up together, and that didn't happen. They separated families and dispersed them and broke them up and all that kind of stuff. So one of the reasons the book stayed with me is um, in the book, um, one of the people that got deported return, find their way back, and finds his way back to the person he loves, and so it's this nice sort of big epic love story, spread over the period of time, but with all that historical fact in there to back it up. So great book, but an interesting and of course difficult part of our history, that why are we still commemorating it? Why can't we get over it? It's not a question of not getting over it. It's that these are things that have happened to the families of people who are still here. Yes, so they commemorate it. Right? So it was just really weird, still in my head. I have no idea why David Staples decided that he was going to insert himself into the story and make himself the victim here. But, you know, it's 2025 and people will do and say things for clicks, I guess, and attention. All right. But thank you, Kit Uncover, for sending that to us. Really appreciate that. Um, since we are going to talk a little bit of trade today, uh, why not Kits and Cubs, especially since he's watching, hopefully, still. uh, let's see if we have a little something. Let's see. We know we have a little something. Let's see what Mr. Grizzly had to say to us today. And here's our Grizzly growl. Please enjoy it.
Well, good Friday morning, and I hope you're doing well. It's been a heck of a week for me. Still getting used to the new schedule. Just got back from a walk with Lola that started at 4:30. It's now 5:02 a.m. at this recording time. Friday, August 1st. So what will become of the tariffs that are supposed to be levied, or the trade deal that's supposed to happen today? I don't believe anything's going to happen. Trump's going to taco. He'll probably either bail on the whole thing or just decide to raise tariffs by 40% or some bizarre thing. Whatever pops into his addled, feeble brain. And that's what it is. That's what he is. That's all he's ever been. He did have some bravado and bluster when he was younger, but that was when he had money. He's been broke for a long time and living off the taxpayer. And here's the thing. He's been grifting you. He's been grifting everyone. The guy's just a piece of human garbage. And he's never going to change. He's just going to continue to be the same pathetic, horrible human being he's always been. He's going to harm as many people as possible. And now, because of his hero, Adolf Hitler, he is trying to do what Hitler did and stymie the media. He's going to shut them down and have final say over what they're allowed to say. Evidenced by how Paramount and CBS bent the knee for him, gave him $16 and canceled Stephen Colbert's show because Colbert had the guts and the temerity to call them out for their short-sightedness, for their stupidity, for the ridiculousness. So yeah, he's emulating his hero. Remember, he said time and time again, he wanted generals that respected him like Hitler's generals did. The man is just human garbage. And it's not going to get any better anytime soon. How's that for a dismal Friday morning? Sorry to start your day off like that. Or maybe it's end your show off. I don't know when Mr. Beaver will hear this, but either way, he's trying now through his White House spokesperson to say that he's done all these peace deals and that he should get the Nobel Peace Prize. That's categorically untrue. He had some things to do with a couple of deals, but very, very little. It's all surface. For the most part, he's just bluster. Once again, bloviating bluster. Pathetic man. Running a once great nation that he has brought to its knees and is destroying on a daily basis. Look, it's no secret that Europeans have had hate, disdain, dislike for the United States of America for a long time. And we know why. But it's on a whole new level now. Because all of the good people that had a voice that would speak up have suddenly become very silent. And it's just sad to see a once great nation be brought to its knees by a madman, rapist, felon, pedophile. I don't know if they can come back from this. I honestly don't. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. I really don't see it turning out good for them. J.D. Vance is no better than Trump. He's smarter, so that's a little bit on the frightening side because he's totally bought into Project 2025 and all the terrible things they are doing to people as they start checking off their list of things that they need to do. It's a strange and bizarre time. Anyway, I have to wrap up because I do have to walk over to the train station to get my train to get to work. So you take care. Have yourselves a great weekend. It is a long weekend after all, and we all love long weekends when we get them. We don't get them often enough, but when we get them, they're wonderful. So until I see you again, my friends, you take care. And try and remain as positive as possible. I know it's not easy. These are tough times after all. But put a smile on your face, get out and enjoy the weather. I'll see you soon.
And that was our Mr. Grizzly, giving you some greetings and his thoughts on basically all things Trump at the moment. And indeed, as you might have heard, because it is August 1st, it does seem indeed that the 35% tariff is coming into effect today that he had promised before. Again, it's not a great thing, but I was listening to some news, and Peter Armstrong, who's the business point person at CBC, tried to put it into some context, stating that, when you calculate everything and then spread it across the entirety of the trade, all the tariffs together sort of come into a total up to about a 5% tariff across the board. But of course, as we know, these are disproportionately applied in certain sectors like steel and aluminum. Yes, the tariffs there are very, very high. And then because, there's about now they're saying it's about 95% of our trade with the USA that's now CUSMA compliant because everybody's been doing their paperwork in order to get that status. So, these 35% tariffs applying to a very small part of the economy, really. And they're going up from the 25 that are already there, right? It's the alleged fentanyl ones that he's boosting from 25 to 35. Don't really apply to that many things. So while the number seems big, the impact is relatively small. But because there's so much of our trade that is exempted, uh, you know, that huge steel and aluminum tariff and all the other specific sectoral ones that they have that are really big, their impact, of course, is diluted over, you know, the overall size of the economy. So for the overall economy, it's like a 5% tariff has been applied overall. But of course, like we mentioned, some of them are very heavily weighted in certain sectors with the view, like the Prime Minister Carney says, to break us in order to own us. Right. So, whether or not there'll be other stuff, who knows? Um, because, like I said, there could be something that happens today where he changes his mind or all that kind of stuff because Trump tacoed on China. He said that there were things coming in for sure, and then gave a 90-day reprieve. He also tacoed on Mexico yesterday, granting them a 90-day reprieve. As we talked about, I think earlier in the day yesterday, Trump looked at our decision on Palestine and said, "Oh, that's not good. That doesn't help." But later out came in the day and says, "No, no, no, that's not a deal breaker." And then later on that day, we heard, yes, the 35% will indeed be going into effect. Um, Now, the tariffs and the trade have affected lots of things across the board. Like, for example, as you know, a lot of Canadians are doing staycations and they're performing a boycott of the United States. So in Canada, it's had some benefits for us. Domestic air travel in Canada is up 6% year over year, which is not negligible. And Canadians staying at home is expected to boost the internal economy by about $900 million. So that's pretty darn good. And yesterday, we were reporting to you, kits and cubs, that the United States economy uh, did better than expected in the second quarter, but GDP grew by 3%, but talked about distortions in the economy, right? People either buying lots of inventory or citizens, consumers buying high ticketed, uh, big ticket items earlier than they necessarily would have to get in before the full weight of tariffs are being felt in the United States because there has um, with the early purchases and all that kind of stuff, and some of um, the purchasers and the companies trying to eat some of the tariffs to not raise prices too much on the consumer at some point. They won't be able to sustain that, and those are going to have to be passed through. So, and those who sort of see that coming have been making bigger purchases earlier. So it seems that there's a huge spike in the economy, but there probably isn't. It's probably artificial and will probably be compensated for in a later quarter when people will not be making these big ticket purchases anymore because things are too expensive. But according to the Financial Post, our second quarter also expects to beat expectations. Um, this is from Jordan Gowling of the Financial Post here. Says Canada's economy is on track to outperform expectations in the second quarter, even though it contracted in May, Statistics Canada said on Thursday. On a monthly basis, gross domestic product fell by 0.1% in May, the same as in April, but Statistics Canada says its flash estimate for June is that the economy would have grown by 0.1%. driven by increases in retail and wholesale trade, which would put an annualized growth for the quarter at 0.1%. So if annualized growth for the quarter is indeed at 0.1%, and our first quarter numbers we had reported on the show were also positive, it would mean that we still haven't had a negative quarter. Now, of course, we're treading water at 0.1%, but we haven't had a negative quarter like the United States had in the first one. And the reason why the second quarter number being above zero was important because when you get two successive quarters that are below zero, with people kind of say that's officially when you're in a recession. So the United States was able to avoid saying that they're in recession, and Canada hasn't even. If these numbers do pan out, if the flash estimate for June does pan out, we will not have had a negative quarter yet. But you might say that the economy is stagnant. We're stagnating, but not in recession yet. It's 1% still. 0.1% is not great, right? The agency's estimate goes against the Bank of Canada's forecast and is above economists' expectations for the quarter. The Bank of Canada, in its monetary policy report released on Wednesday, said growth in the second quarter contracted 1.5%. So it'll be interesting to see what number actually pans out, because according to the Bank of Canada, we should have had a second quarter should indeed be negative. Policymakers decided to hold the interest rate at 2.75% Wednesday due to trade uncertainty, underlying inflation, and evidence pointing to a more resilient economy. Its outlook for the third quarter has growth recovering to 1%. So that's better than the opposite. Bank of Montreal chief economist Douglas Porter said the data suggests the Canadian economy has weathered trade uncertainty and taken on less damage than initially expected. Quote, pretty much everyone would have gladly taken StatsCan's estimate of flat output in Q2 as a big win at the start of the quarter, he said in a note. The less good news is that conditions are still generally soft overall, reinforced by the steady decline in the job vacancy rate. Porter said the big question is whether the pickup in June for both jobs and growth carried over into the third quarter. The unemployment rate ticked down to 6.9% in June, with the economy adding 83,000 jobs, although most positions were part-time, and trade uncertainty is expected to continue. Prime Minister Mark Carney on Wednesday said, quote, it was possible that negotiations for a new economic and security deal with the United States will not conclude by the August 1st deadline. As a result, tariffs on Canadian goods not exempted under the Canada-United States-Mexico agreement are set to increase from 25% to 35% starting today. Toronto Dominion Bank economist Mark Ercolao said trade uncertainty is clouding the outlook, but policymakers will continue to weigh both downward and upward pressures on the economy. Quote, the Bank of Canada will take this reading in stride as they continue to weigh softening economic growth against ongoing underlying inflation pressures, he said in a note. With excess supply building in the economy and inflation showing some signs of containment, we believe there's room to lower the policy rate later this year. In May, growth in the goods-producing industries decreased due to contractions in the mining and oil gas sector. Mining and quarrying declined 2.8%, while 3% drop in oil sands extraction hurt to the oil and gas sector. The manufacturing sector grew 0.7% during the month, partially offsetting its decline in April. This was driven by higher inventory accumulation, with increases in the fabricated metal manufacturing sector and the chemical manufacturing subsector. The services sector remained unchanged in May, though growth in real estate and rental and leasing increased by 0.3% during the month. The transportation sector also expanded in May, offsetting its decline in April. Rail transportation contributed the most to the sector's growth, followed by pipeline transportation. Retail trade contracted by 1.2%, with motor vehicle and parts dealers reporting the biggest decline in that sector, which is kind of expected given the size of the tariffs in that sector. And growth in the public sector was down in May, with the federal government public administration, excluding defense, contracting by 3.2%. Again, that's news that should probably make conservatives happy. They hate the public service. Oh my God, it's incredible. We seem to be weathering the storm fairly well overall at the moment, and let's hope that continues. So we have these trade things going on. Again, we'll see what happens today. Trump could reverse himself before 5 o'clock today in certain ways. He can still go ahead with the 35. We might hear something else with regard to trade. Who knows? But I want to point out one thing here. Um, Canada's favorite columnist, or the Beaver Lodge's favorite columnist, drip, drip, drip with sarcasm, Brian Lillylevered, put out a tweet yesterday after Donald Trump said, "Wow, Canada has just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them." Oh, Canada. Brian Lilly, never one to never one to want to miss an opportunity to dunk on Canada. Um, Points out, anyone paying attention could have predicted this. Mark Carney, the Trump whisperer, strikes again. We were close to a deal 2 months ago, and now we will head into August as the only major ally without one. Brian Lilly seems to still not have gotten the memo that there was no first mover advantage here. But also, he states as a fact, we were close to a deal 2 months ago. How does he know that? Pardon my language, but he has no fucking way of knowing that at all. The federal government has been so tight-lipped about what's going on in that room that if you were not in that room, and if you were, clearly you have been told not to talk because nobody's talking, you could not know this. Brian Lilly is literally pulling stuff out from his backside and stating it as a fact. We were close to a deal 2 months ago. There's an account that I appreciate here at Geneva Trade Law on Twitter. Great guy. You need to follow that account frequently. Solid content, and the man has a wonderful sense of humor as well. But very emphatically stating, no, we weren't. No, we aren't. Everyone who understands what's going on would have predicted chaos. There is no bottom to this dude's desire for self-abuse and subjugation. So, point, Mr. Geneva Trade Law here on this one. Again, please understand, kids and cubs, that even in Canada, given our press, and a lot of it is owned by U.S. American hedge funds and vulture funds and whatever other types of funds that are very, very, very pro-GOP. That these messages in here that Brian Lilly is sending us, that the National Post is sending us like this, always needs to be preceded by the Americans who own this newspaper and worship Donald Trump want you to believe that. Anyone paying attention could have predicted this. Mark Carney, the Trump whisperer, strikes again. We were close to a deal 2 months ago, and now we will head into August as the only major ally without one. And when we was talking about only major ally without one, Australia doesn't have one. We're not the only major ally that doesn't have a deal. He promised 190 deals. 90 deals in 90 days. And he technically doesn't have a single deal. He has a couple of handfuls of announceables. None of these things have dispute resolution mechanisms. It's not a trade deal unless there's a dispute resolution mechanism in there, right? So this guy is this big sort of conservative drumbeat. We've fallen behind. Everybody else has got a deal but us. My God, we're so terrible. We're like, it's all bunk. It's all bunk. And there's another thing going on, which has been going on in the background. We haven't been talking about it much on the show, but it has come to a head a bit here in that there is legal action going on against these tariffs. We talked about this in May, and then, of course, justice moves slowly, but it's popped back up again. According to Mike Crawley of CBC News, there was a crucial legal test yesterday for these tariffs, for some of these tariffs anyway. There was a hearing before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, which involved a pair of lawsuits challenging the 25% Trump tariff levied on imports from Canada and Mexico in March, and what Trump called his Liberation Day tariffs imposed on nearly every other country in April. At issue is whether Trump's justifications for the tariffs hold any legal water, given the president has limited powers to levy duties on foreign countries. Canada is watching the case closely because of its implications for the tariffs Trump imposed ostensibly to combat cross-border fentanyl trafficking, tariffs that he's threatening, well, that he has threatened and has raised to 35% starting today. Todd Tucker, Director of Industrial Policy and Trade at the Roosevelt Institute, a Washington think tank, says the legal challenge to Trump's tariffs has global economic implications. Quote, Trump is disrupting global trade relations in a way that we haven't seen since the 1930s. Gee, I wonder what happened in the 1930s. Tucker said in an interview with CBC News. Quote, some kind of favorable, even partial victory for the plaintiffs in these cases will sort of put the global economy back on a more secure footing, he said. The case, which has moved further through the courts, the case which has moved further through the courts than any other legal challenge of Trump's tariffs brings together two related lawsuits. 5 small businesses led by a New York wine importer challenging the Liberation Day tariffs, and 12 states led by Oregon challenging both the Liberation Day tariffs and the tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Both sets of plaintiffs won their cases at the U.S. Court of International Trade in late May, and that's what we had reported. But we needed to wait now for arguments to start in the next case because, Trump appealed it, of course. The ruling found the president overstepped his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or the IEEPA, the statute Trump used to impose both sets of tariffs. Oral arguments took place yesterday in the Trump administration's appeal of that ruling. Jeffrey Schwab, senior counsel at Liberty Justice Center, a nonprofit public interest litigation firm representing the 5 small businesses, says the case aims to rein in what he describes as presidential overreach. Quote, the case is about whether the president has the power to unilaterally impose tariffs on any country he wants, at any rate he wants, at any time he wants, for any reason he wants, he said in an interview with CBC News. Quote, Congress ultimately has that power under our Constitution, and although Congress can delegate that power to the president, they have not done so. The IEEPA gives the president the authority to use emergency economic measures to, quote, deal with any unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, or economy of the United States. The Trump administration's argument, both in his executive order levying the tariffs on Canada and in its legal brief filed for the appeal, is that the flow of fentanyl across the country's northern border constitutes that, quote, unusual and extraordinary threat. The administration claimed the tariffs deal with the fentanyl threat by giving the U.S. the leverage to pressure Canada to address the issue. Trump's justification for the tariffs on Mexico is similar, that drug trafficking and illegal immigration across the southern border constitute an emergency that tariffs provide leverage to force the Mexican government to take action. But the Court of International Trade didn't buy those arguments in May. The court ruled that the tariffs on Canada and Mexico do not actually deal with the specific threats Trump cited. It also ruled that the Liberation Day tariffs were applied too broadly across the globe to be truly addressing an emergency. That ruling struck down both sets of tariffs, but almost immediately the Trump administration requested and obtained a stay, which was granted, which meant the tariffs have continued to apply. Molly Nixon, a Washington-based attorney at Pacific Legal Foundation, a national public interest firm, says whichever side wins the appeal, it's very likely headed to the U.S. Supreme Court. Quote, this is a question of pretty major national significance. I would be very surprised if the Supreme Court didn't review the case. No president before Trump has ever used the IEEPA to impose tariffs. So, he's really a little bit outside the box here. His predecessors have used its powers to levy sanctions on enemy regimes, to ban transactions with groups that are deemed terrorist organizations, or to freeze the assets of designated transnational criminal organizations. So basically, Trump is treating Canada and Mexico with some of these tariffs, and basically all the world, like everyone is a criminal or an enemy regime or terrorist organization. Flattering, isn't it? He thinks of us so highly. Then again, we're nasty and mean. Jeez. So yeah, Yesterday's hearing is before the U.S. Courts of Appeal for the Federal Circuit. The case is moving through the court at what is, for the U.S. legal system, lightning speed. Legal observers say they expect the appeals court to issue a ruling within weeks, likely by early September. That could soon be followed by the losing party petitioning the U.S. Supreme Court to hear an appeal. The case does not address Trump's 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from around the world, which he imposed using a different statute, the president's long-established power to levy duties on imports for reasons of national security. Other Canadian exports that comply with the rules of origin in the Canada-US-Mexico agreement are exempt from the fentanyl tariffs, which means nearly 90% of Canadian exports can enter the U.S. tariff-free. So that's the other thing in the background, right? All the legal cases that are going. There's a lot of countries that have been dragging their heels to get the result of this challenge, which of course will be brought to the Supreme Court, as the article states, by the losing party. But if there are two decisions in a row that declare that these Trump tariffs are illegal, then again, why would any country really want to be in a rush to sign a deal, a full formal deal, making concessions that they will not be able to claw back later? Because once you give something to the Americans, good luck trying to get it back. Just saying. Why rush when, the United States Supreme Court may eventually decide, you know what, no, you can't do this. Now, the 6 Republican judges on the U.S. Supreme Court seem to have no problem reversing stare decisis, legal precedent, or inventing new rights for the president and privileges for him against everything that we know and that many Americans know to be constitutional before Donald Trump came along. So it's not exactly like the world can rely on the U.S. Supreme Court to say, hey, okay, they'll see reason and have our back. That's not the strong point of this particular court. However, a lot of this stuff that Trump is doing does violate the number one rule of conservative/Republican politics, global conservative and Republican politics, which may explain why, thankfully, former Prime Minister Voldemort, Stephen Harper, had some choice words for Trump and what he's doing. It seems that former Prime Minister Harper is not a big fan of what Trump is doing. And with tariffs and all that kind of stuff, and has publicly said so. We're now like at 2 or 3 occasions now that Stephen Harper has given a more full-throated denunciation of Donald Trump than Pierre Poilievre could ever dream of doing at the moment, which has started to cause some speculation as to out there as to whether or not Stephen Harper still supports Pierre as much as he claimed he did in that election video where he stated he's met both Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney and he would definitely pick Pierre Poilievre. Lied he through his teeth, because that's not true. Because if that was true, he would have picked Pierre Poilievre when he was in government. Let's say to be finance minister or something like that. But he picked Mark Carney to be governor of Bank of Canada, and allegedly, according to the rumor mill, wanted him to take over for Jim Flaherty when he left. It wasn't Pierre that Stephen Harper called then, but during the election, Stephen Harper wanted us to believe that if he had the choice today, at election time, between Carney and Pierre, he would have put Pierre. But that latest little public event that he went to where he was speaking out about this kind of stuff, he also called Putin a classic Bond villain in there. That could also apply to Trump when he did that. But a lot of people say, he seems to not be expressing that much support for what Pierre has been preaching and a little more for what Mark Carney has been preaching. Apparently, Stephen Harper also volunteered on his own that the Carney government had called Stephen Harper to ask for some of his advice in dealing with this situation, which again prompts the question, gee, Stephen, are you sure? Do you still support Pierre rather than Mr. Carney, in this particular instance now that you've seen Trump violating the rule, which is don't fuck with my money. Do whatever you want to the plebs down there, but don't you dare fuck with very rich people's money. So, and Trump is fucking with rich people's money right now. So that could be the impetus for all of that. But yes, is going on here. So yeah, um, with those court cases, that could be the only reason that the Supreme Court of the United States might not go all in for Trump on this decision, because when it comes to the six Republican Supreme Court justices, for at least a few of them, there appears to be a adopt a justice program going on. We've talked about it a lot previously, but there's one or two Supreme Court justices in particular that have been getting lots of gifts and things of the like from very rich friends, and fighting um, the imposition of more stringent ethics and reporting rules for themselves. So, and I'm pretty sure that it is not the shopkeeper in Minnesota whose electronics have gone up significantly because of imposed tariffs on China, who is adopting the Supreme Court justice. Right? Some of the people that have been giving gifts, even according to the reports, have had business before the court, which is like highly unethical, completely unethical. So, yeah, you can't look to the U.S. Supreme Court anymore as the place that you can bring a case to and get a decision on the case from a group of 9 people whose first loyalty is to the Constitution and the law. That doesn't exist anymore in the United States. Fortunately, we still have that in Canada, but that does not exist anymore in the United States. So, said about the only saving grace for this particular court trial is that the U.S. Supreme Court decides that its bread is buttered, better buttered. Those 6 justices on the sides of very, very, very rich people rather than on the side of Trump. But if they do decide that, then yeah, Trump might get bopped on the nose with a rolled up newspaper by the Supreme Court with regard to these tariffs, and might have to cut some back or eliminate some. So no country is really in a rush to sign an actual deal, right? I's dotted, T's crossed, every comma in the specific right place with dispute resolution mechanisms and all of that kind of stuff in it until that decision's going to come down. Because why make a concession if a court could rule that the tariffs are illegal? Let's get the court's ruling first before we make a concession. Because again, once you make one, you can't get it back. So, yes, everybody has a vested interest in dragging their heels till this legal process is complete. And of course, there are other legal process, international ones with the WTO and trade board and stuff like that. But those will take years and years and years to resolve. And complete industries could be completely decimated before you get an actual decision on that. And again, all of that relies on the expectation that normal countries with rational actors would abide by a court's decision. But we don't have that here with the United States either. Even if the United States Supreme Court ruled against Donald Trump, what's predictable is that Donald Trump would rush to a mic and start denouncing the members of the Supreme Court and wondering why he's been so forsaken, where they went wrong, and who got to them. And maybe we need to reconsider lifetime appointments and start going down that route, right? Because remember, every time Trump fails, it's not because he did something wrong. It's not because he's incompetent, right? It's somebody else. It's something else. Something stopped him or got in the way or was radical or evil or, but it's not him. Never him. Jeez. Talking about more trade here domestically. Um, there's some buzz about that Danielle Smith, once again, has screwed over, has chosen to screw over fellow Canadians. Um, we've announced, remember, that all the provinces except for Newfoundland and Labrador had agreed to remove interprovincial tariffs on alcohol sales, particularly for direct to consumer sales, but also, just general overall sales. And there was um, a decision back in January 2025 that said that BC wineries would be allowed to sell directly to Alberta consumers. So that had happened already. Um, and I think the process was announced in December 9th and then came December 9th, 2024, and came into effect on January 7th, 2025. Uh, but then it seems that there was a different fee structure that happened of some kind. And uh, BC wineries are crying foul, according to Kyle Bax. 3 months after Alberta's new fees on wine were introduced, BC wineries are starting to feel the pinch as the amount of lost sales add up. That despite a trade deal between the provinces that allows Albertans to buy directly from BC wine producers. The fees come at a time when governments are looking to reduce trade barriers between provinces due to U.S. President Donald Trump's ongoing threats of tariffs. Alberta, in particular, often boasts about leading the way on improving trade. Quote, "We could be doing a lot more business," said Ron Kubik, owner and CEO of Lightning Rock Winery in Summerland, British Columbia, who estimates Alberta's fees on a $30 bottle add about an extra 30% to the price. At Bench 1775 Winery in Penticton, BC, overall online sales would be about 30 to 40% higher if not for Alberta's fees, according to hospitality manager Joshua Kim. Quote, "It's huge," he said. "It's kind of a slap in the face, to be honest with you, for a lot of BC wineries." The wineries were optimistic about an expected rise in sales this summer after a new program was launched for BC wine to be sold directly to drinkers in Alberta. However, the introduction of higher fees has poured the excitement down the drain. Beginning in April, Alberta increased its flat fee on wine while also introducing an added charge for any bottle costs more than $11.25. The new fee increases depending on the price of the wine up to 15%. Alberta wine pricing is now the most expensive in North America, according to the Alberta Hospitality Association. Quote, "They removed all the regulatory barriers. That was great news. They got the red tape out of the way. But then they added in new taxes just on wine, which feels particularly punitive at a moment like this," said Jeff Guinard, CEO of Wine Growers British Columbia. "It's frustrating, to be honest with you. We had a deal in place, and then it really feels to us like Alberta has just screwed this up. Gee, I wonder who Danielle might have modeled that type of behavior off of." Danielle Trump. "Some wineries are likely skirting the rules and selling directly to Albertans," Gignard said. "But if you make a tax policy this confusing and irrational, some folks just throw up their hands and say we're not going to bother to do it," he said, although he encourages his members to follow the rules. The fees are charged on all wine, no matter the origin. However, the fees do impact BC and Ontario wine in particular, because virtually no Canadian wine is priced below the $11.25 threshold. Alberta believes Quote, "Alberta believes in free and open trade, and we're open to finding opportunities to improve it with our provincial partners," said Service Alberta and Red Tape Reduction Minister Dale Nally in a statement, trying to untangle himself from fresh red tape. "Our agreement with BC is reducing red tape, making it easier for Albertans to buy BC wine, but still ensuring wineries pay the fees Alberta collects on liquor sales. These agreements are an important step towards improving trade in liquor and related products." In June, Alberta became the first province to resume selling U.S. alcohol. Some provinces continue to ban the sale of American alcohol products that began earlier this year following the trade war between the two countries. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith often promotes the province as open for business and leading the way on cutting taxes and red tape. Those messages come across as hypocritical for Quebec with Lightning Rock Winery because the new fees are effectively a tax that discourage interprovincial trade. Quote, she's championing free trade at the same time she's championing taxes that we never had before. They're saying one thing nationally, but then they're penalizing us on the other side. She wants to be Captain Canada, but for me, she's Captain Tax Grabber, Quebec said, adding that it's now cheaper for him to sell wine in the U.S. compared to in Alberta because Danielle is such a team player. Internal trade within Canada is improving, according to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, although Alberta has lost its status as a leader in removing barriers over the last year. Alberta was ranked lower in the organization's recent report card compared to 2024 because it has yet to introduce or pass legislation adopting mutual recognition, which opens the door for governments to accept each other's standards or regulations of products, labor, and services without the need for additional testing. So, like we said many months ago, Danielle is fully happy to be on Team Canada so long as she doesn't have to do a damn thing to help. Oh, yeah, sure. You could sell your wine direct to consumers. It's great. Oh, by the way, here's an extra 15% tax. And a tariff, if you will. Of course, she's not going to call it that. She's so duplicitous, that woman. So yeah, Danielle Smith, not rowing in the same direction as the rest of the team, once again, screwing over fellow Canadians while making it easier for Americans. When she gets hers, that's all I'm going to say. When she gets hers, I am not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. All right. The other thing that major issue that we wanted to talk about today, which was in our title, lane swerving, is that we have a certain number of politicians, all of them conservative for some reason. Don't know why that is. Just seems to be a thing that for some reason wanted to do every job but their own. We've got measles cases galore in Alberta and Ontario. But Doug Ford and Danielle Smith, Doug Ford still apparently wants to be mayor of Ontario. And Danielle Smith just keeps on doing and saying things that are completely out of her lane while telling everybody else to stay in theirs. And you got Pierre Poilievre making some statements as well that are the leader of a political party should not. So we're going to go into a few, and this one is sort of has some side stories that are related and whatnot. So it's going to be a little bit of circuitous. I can't say the word. Circuitous. I can't even think of the word. I'm thinking in French and I can't get the word. It's going to be a winding path. Circuitous. There's the word I was looking for. Circuitous path to get through all of these. But keep your arms and legs in the ride at all times, and I will safely get you to destination, kids and cubs. The first one has to deal, and we talked about it a little bit, with attacks on the justice system. There's, of course, a sentencing hearing had started for Tamara Lich and Chris Barber after the convoy stuff. And word got out that the Crown was asking for an 8-year sentence for Chris Barber and 7 years for Tamara Lich, which sent the conservative sphere on the internet crazy and wild and losing their minds, right? And number one, right, let's be honest, what the Crown asks for and what is actually given. Sometimes there's a wild discrepancy when it comes to that. So, but everybody was running as if like, oh my God, they're going to get sentenced 8 and 7 years. What a travesty of justice. No, it's just that's what the Crown asked for. That was the Crown's recommendation for sentencing. Of course, the defense's recommendation for sentencing was like a discharge or something, which was like, no. Like, come on. It's like, you do not do that to a city and your fellow citizens for that long time and reasonably expect a discharge. So if you want to, I personally don't agree that 7 to 8 years is too little for what they did. Is too much for for what they did. But let's assume that the Crown over asks and the defense under asks. If the Crown's request is supposedly so outrageous and ridiculous, so is the defense's, right? A discharge. Are you seriously? However, Tuesday, the Ontario Crown Attorneys Association released an open letter. And it said, and there are two cases that are going on that got people talking. Of course, the first one here is the Tamara Litch and Chris Barber, but the other one is also the Hockey Canada decision that acquitted those five. I loathe to use the word men with extremely questionable judgment and very little discernment, because there were some attacks on the prosecutors, not the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, particularly the female ones, after the court case. So let's see what it is that they had to say here. This is the Ontario Crown Attorneys Association. They wrote on July 29th. The independence of Crown prosecutors from political and public pressure is a central tenet of our justice system and our free and democratic Canadian society. We are independent, we are apolitical, and we are ministers of justice. We have a responsibility to act in the public interest and to uphold the rule of law. Over the past week, there have been attacks on various aspects of our criminal justice system by politicians, media, and members of the public. The censure has ranged from insults levied against the Crown for its sentencing positions in a highly publicized prosecution to the shaming of counsel based on their gender and the defense of individuals charged with certain offenses. Be they attacks on prosecutorial independence or sexist attacks on principles of fundamental justice, these actions are an affront to the rule of law. An essential aspect of the rule of law is the independence of our prosecutorial system. The role of a Crown in a trial is not to secure a conviction, but to ensure that a trial is conducted fairly for all those involved. This applies to not only those charged with offenses, but to complainants as well. Fair trials are those based on legally admissible evidence and an objective application of the law. If an individual is found guilty, the Crown then has a responsibility to ensure that a proportional sentence is sought. Sentencing submissions are based on applicable legislation, relevant sentencing principles, the facts of the case, and our Constitution. The Crown advances legal arguments to pursue just sanctions in order to protect society and to contribute to respect for the law. The opinions of politicians and others expressed in social media do not dictate the actions of our Crown prosecutors. A prosecutor's job entails seeking a legally available sentence that responds to the objective seriousness of the offense and the moral blameworthiness of the offender. Consideration of the vast number of people directly and indirectly impacted by an offense is proper consideration. Sentencing frameworks include minimum and maximum sentences are determined by our duly elected representatives. Personal attacks on Crowns seeking a significant sentence are nothing less than attacks on prosecutorial independence. These attacks do not, nor will they ever, drive the decisions made by our prosecutors. A lawyer's gender plays no role in determining one's eligibility to participate in either the lawful prosecution or vigorous defense of any charge in our criminal justice system. To suggest otherwise is to undermine the very principles upon which the rule of law is based. Such attacks show a fundamental lack of understanding of our foundational constitutional principles, including the presumption of innocence, the right to a fair trial, and equality. For months now, we have seen horrifying daily attacks on the prosecutorial independence of our southern neighbors. Lawyers across our own province and across Canada have recently been publicly reaffirming their commitment to the rule of law. As a representative of Ontario's Assistant Crown Attorneys, I stand with my members to pledge to do everything in our power to protect, As a representative of Ontario's Assistant Crown Attorneys, I stand with my members to pledge to do everything within our power to safeguard our independence as a foundational principle of the rule of law. And that is from the president of the Ontario Crown Attorneys Association. There was another letter that was also written by the Criminal Lawyers Association, which represents 1,800 defense lawyers. This would be in reference specifically here to the Hockey Canada case. and it's called Why Women Lawyers Represent Men Accused of Sexual Crimes. In response to the Hockey Canada verdicts, a familiar misogynistic refrain popped up again. Why would a woman defend a man accused of sexual assault? Where are their moral compasses? How do they sleep at night? The answer is simple. A criminal lawyer, regardless of gender, represents individuals charged with criminal offenses. A criminal lawyer does not prejudge the guilt or innocence of their clients simply because the person has been charged with a certain type of offense. We give the state the power to take away a person's liberty in this country, but that power is not limitless. That power comes with constitutional restraints to ensure that no innocent person is wrongfully convicted. Every single person in this country accused of any crime is presumed to be innocent and must be found not guilty unless the Crown is able to convince the trier of the fact beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond reasonable doubt and the presumption of innocence are not catchphrases or loophole defenses. They are bedrock principles of the Canadian criminal justice system. Defense lawyers shoulder the responsibility of protecting these principles by holding the state accountable to this high burden of proof. That's our job. Our job is not and never has been to say that violence against women is morally or legally correct. So how do we sleep at night? We sleep knowing we work tirelessly to safeguard our client's presumption of innocence from trial by public opinion. We sleep knowing we put forward robust defenses that compel police and prosecutors to produce sound, reliable, and legally obtained evidence. We sleep knowing that despite public rhetoric saying otherwise, we follow our well-established rules of professional conduct that can curtail excessive cross-examination or abusive courtroom conduct. In Toronto Star opinion, Why Would Female Lawyers Represent Men in Sexual Crimes? Heather Malik casts judgment laced with patriarchal thinking about where women should and should not be working, while also suggesting that the men who hire female lawyers only do so to, quote, hide behind their skirts, as opposed to their talent or well-earned reputation for excellence. Miss Malik suggests that a man accused of sexual assault might hire a woman lawyer as a, quote, flattering agency. Quote, the lady by your side in court and taking your side. These words are not just patronizing, they are cartoonishly sexist. They reduce highly trained, highly competent women lawyers to skirts and set pieces, implying that their presence is decorative or tactical rather than a testament to their skill and experience. This isn't a new trope. During the 2016 Ghomeshi trial, McLean's published a piece by Anne Kingston musing that Mary Heneen's wardrobe and counsel's supposed makeover were what won the case. The implication, then and now, is that when a woman lawyer succeeds in court, it's because of optics, not advocacy. This isn't legal critique. It's a refusal to see women as professionals. A woman defense lawyer is not a lesser subset of a defense lawyer who should only take on certain cases. She is not, as Miss Malik suggests, just some, quote, friendly blonde in a, quote, skirt, nor is she, quote, serving misogyny by accepting the cases that her male colleagues accept routinely without question or judgment. A woman defense lawyer is a highly trained professional who accepts and advances her ethical and professional responsibilities as a zealous advocate. She knows the law. She knows the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and understands the rules of evidence. She does not bend to uninformed public pressure from those who believe the presumption of innocence should apply differently to those charged with sexual assault. Let's be clear. Suggesting that woman defense lawyers, quote, serve misogyny by doing their jobs is not feminist. It's paternalistic moral policing. It infantilizes women, implying that they are either too emotional to take these cases or too compromised by gender loyalty to uphold professional obligations. That's not progress. It is regression dressed up in outrage. And I'd like to take a side note here to point out here that, wondering how do women lawyers sleep at night when they take on an SA case in defense of men? But nobody asks the question about how do men sleep at night? Taking cases defending men of their own gender, men who would be giving men a bad name by the things that they have been accused of doing. Why would any man in his right mind support a man who would defend a man, take that case, who would do that to a woman? We never ask that question though, right? We don't question their competence. We don't say that they are too emotionally compromised by gender loyalty to uphold their legal obligations. Because there sure were plenty of men after this decision all over the social media sphere saying, okay, so now can we out EM? because clearly she lied. And this was malicious and vicious against these 5 innocent young boys. But they weren't compromised by gender loyalty. The people running with this decision and making these types of statements afterwards. And I'm not saying that these people were prosecutors, right? But we've certainly seen a lot of questionable comments that could make one wonder whether or not the men making them were compromised by gender loyalty in wanting some type of retribution or revenge against EM or outing of her because of a not guilty verdict, when everybody should know that not guilty does not necessarily mean innocent. It means there wasn't enough evidence presented in court to meet the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. But it doesn't mean that there was no evidence at all. Right? So, just within the criminal bar, the women who defended the accused in the Hockey Canada trial are widely respected for their legal acumen. They are leaders, mentors, and role models in a profession that still struggles to retain women. That they were chosen to lead these high-profile defenses is not a failure of feminism. It is a success. We stand for due process. We stand for justice, and yes, we stand for women. We're not apologizing for doing our jobs. We're demanding respect for doing them well. So when you get to these questions here, why would female lawyers represent men in sexual crimes? Because that's the job. Duh. That's it. It's the job. They do the job. And everybody is entitled to the most zealous defense possible. And that's where it starts and that's where it ends. It's really that simple. Everybody is entitled to the most zealous defense possible. And it's the job to provide that. That's why a female lawyer would represent. And then, of course, when you put that, the presumption of innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So if you take the case, and if you're a lawyer and you're a defense lawyer and you take a case and you defend it, you provide legal defense, because with a starting bias that the people that you are representing are indeed guilty, how zealous is that defense really? Right? You have to fully commit to the principle of innocent until proven guilty, even for people who are charged with the most distasteful, disgusting, vile crimes. That's the job. That's the job. So, two very important letters that needed to be stated here. So Pierre and all of them, apparently law and order, jail not bail, unless the criminals happen to very much support the party or be beneficial to the party in some way, or have done things that the party is deciding to exploit and market for its own gain. Then it's all right. Then it's all right. These people should not be talking. These people should not be talking. They should not be making these statements at all. Then, since we're talking about Tamara and Chris, one of these little side notes that have happened, or side stories sort of related, is that one of the lawyers for the Freedom Convoy has met up with a little bit of difficulty herself, ironically, because with the convoy, there were bank accounts that were seized and frozen for a couple of days. Well, Canada's favorite lawyer, Eva Chipmunk, or Eva Chipiuk, according to the Financial Post, this is Naimul Karim who wrote this. A lawyer who represented protesters from the Freedom Convoy and cross-examined former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in 2023. Remember when she sort of like asked that last question, like, how does it feel that you failed your people or something like that, and then closed the book and then walked away before he could actually give an answer or something like that, trying to have this big dramatic viral moment. She was terrible. But yes, the lawyer who represented protesters from the Freedom Convoy and cross-examined former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in 2023 said she was unexpectedly dropped as a customer by Royal Bank of Canada after making a couple of cryptocurrency transfers. On July 23rd, Eva Chipiuk posted a copy of a letter with the subject line of termination of banking relationship on LinkedIn, which she said was sent to her by RBC, where she said she had an account for about 5 years. She said in an interview that let's try that again, tripped over my tongue. She said in an interview that the letter that let her know the bank was severing their relationship with her, also known as being debanked, followed 2 transactions with cryptocurrency platform ShakePay Incorporated. Quote, after careful consideration, we regretfully advise you that the recent activity in your account is outside the RBC's client risk appetite, the letter said. Consequently, we are no longer in a position to continue our banking relationship with you. Now, if it was only 2 transactions and they were such that RBC turned around and say, sorry, but your business we do not want, they must have been, I assume, some transactions. I assume. Chipiuk said she has taken her business to another financial institution. An RBC spokesperson, when asked about the situation, said, quote, on occasion, a client or the bank may choose to end their banking relationship and that each has the contractual right and discretion to do so. For its part, RBC makes such a decision only after careful consideration of the circumstances, the spokesperson said. Although not a frequent occurrence, having your account closed by a bank can happen, and banks are not obligated to provide a reason. Quote, any decision to close an account is not taken lightly, said a spokesperson from the Canadian Bankers Association, which represents about 60 domestic and foreign banks in Canada. Quote, banks make these decisions independently, taking into consideration applicable laws, regulatory requirements, and institution-specific factors, and evaluating the risk of their respective clients. Chipiuk said her account was locked after she sent 2 e-transfers 2 days in a row for $1,000 to ShakePay, a financial app that allows people to buy and sell Bitcoin. The second transfer was stopped by the bank and triggered an account freeze, she said. She said she eventually had to go to the bank to get her accounts restored. A few days after that, she received a letter from RBC saying that her accounts were set to be closed by mid-August. Quote, many of my experiences were incredibly frustrating, feeling like I was a criminal and had to defend myself, she said. After the last interaction, I decided to open an account with Bow Valley Credit Union. I have not had a chance to look into legal options. Remember, kids and cubs as well. Miss Eva Chipmunk is a person that decided to take a trip to Poland and not bring her Canadian passport with her, and then had trouble getting back in, and then made a big social media stink in order to draw attention to herself as a victim, claiming that she was giving improper information because in Canada, typically we tell people that if you travel to a foreign country, you don't need your Canadian passport to get back in. Just like we tell people in a democracy, 1 person, 2 votes. This never happens. A lawyer did not do the research required, did not read the fine print enough, or did not have the knowledge to know at the age that she is, that if you are coming back, and I don't mean that she's old, I mean that she's a full grown-ass adult, to know that when you leave the country, if you want to get back in, it's probably a good idea to have your passport. It was everybody's fault but her own for not bringing it. Or not asking the question, what do I need to make sure I can get back in the country? So we're not dealing with we're dealing with a 20-watt bulb and a 100-watt socket. Okay? Here. During the protests involving the Freedom Convoy in 2022, Canadian banks froze a total of about $7.8 million in about 200 accounts when the federal government invoked its Emergency Act powers. It's almost a little poetic that the person who defended these people has been debanked herself. Anyway, after posing about the incident on social media, Chipyuk said she received responses, quote, from an overwhelming amount of people who told her that they had been debanked through a similar letter. Oh, yes, a program. It may not be as rare as we think, she said. The Ombudsman for Banking Services and Investments, a nonprofit that helps resolve disputes between consumers and financial services, said about 5% of the complaints it receives each year are linked to debanking. In 2024, OBSI opened 94 cases related to debanking, down from 105 cases in 2023. But Eva Chipyuk, she's receiving an amount from an overwhelming responses. She's receiving responses from an overwhelming amount of people. 94 cases related to debanking in 2024, 105 in 2023. 199 people total in the last 2 years. Even if every single one of them gave her a response, that would not be overwhelming. She just lies. She's a fabulist. A spokesperson for the Ombudsman for Banking Service and Investments cited that if a bank provides a customer with a, quote, a reasonable notice period before closing the account, the organization does not generally recommend compensation since a bank, quote, is entitled to end its business with a customer. However, in certain cases, the OBSI will look into whether a special situation warranted more notice or flexibility and investigate whether a bank's decision to close the account was biased or carried out in a fair manner. Quote, usually we find banks have given reasonable notice. In rare cases, we may recommend a refund of fees or compensation if not enough notice was given. We are not able to challenge or change a bank's decision. We are also generally not able to tell the consumer the bank's reason for an account closure. Alana Scotchmer, a lawyer at Gowling WLG who focuses on banking services, said being debanked can prove to be, quote, a confusing process for people since they often don't receive a lot of information. Quote, it is prohibited for banks to give information to customers about why they are being debanked in some instances, like where there are suspicious transactions. I'll just let that sit for a moment. Scotchmer said there has been heightened security from the government in recent years to ensure that banks tackle issues linked to money laundering, and if anything falls, quote, offside of a bank risk's appetite, they can discontinue their service. Quote, they have millions of customers, so they're also looking at patterns of transactions for individual and business customers and the way that money flows across the system, she said. They're often looking at multiple factors when they make these decisions, and several different things can raise red flags for banks. So I read the sentence, and this leads me to believe that while these two particular transactions resulted in her being debanked, it is possible that they could have been, these particularly two, could have been part of a established pattern of transactions that seemed to indicate something, and it was these final two that prompted the bank to determine, you know what, yours is business we don't want. Thank you. So this may not be a situation of one day, hey, I just made 2 transactions. Why am I being debanked? So these 2 transactions may just be the ones that confirmed that there was indeed a pattern or a trend that was outside the bank's risk appetite. At the end of the day, banks, despite being, quote, solid institutions in society, are not a public service and are not obligated to continue to serve customers where they have assessed that the risk is too high. I'm sure there will be more to come from that, kids and cubs. Also, as an aside on this one, because one of the complaints was, of course, about female lawyers taking on the Hockey Canada case. It would seem, according to Ashley Burke of CBC, that Canada's Secretary of State for Sport has said that the government is keeping Hockey Canada under increased monitoring for the foreseeable future as a condition of federal funding. Adam Van Couverden told CBC News that Canada's national governing body for hockey has made progress addressing its culture, but there's more work to be done. Quote, it's not just a matter of a box-checking exercise. We're talking about a massive shift in culture that requires transparency and accountability and a lot of time. That monitoring will continue to be done by Sports Canada and Van Couverden's office, he said. The federal government paused Hockey Canada's funding in 2022 over its handling of a high-profile case. A woman known as EM reported a group of 2018 World Junior players sexually assaulted her in a London, Ontario hotel room. A judge recently found the 5 players not guilty. Hockey Canada came under intense public scrutiny 3 years ago for quietly paying EM a settlement. Hockey parents were outraged to learn that their registration fees were going into a reserve fund without their knowledge and used to pay out millions of dollars in SA claims over the years. A parliamentary committee investigated sponsors, paused funding, and the head of Hockey Canada and its entire board resigned. The government restored Hockey Canada's funding in 2023, but it came with strings attached. The organization has had to submit quarterly reports to the federal government about its progress, addressing recommendations in 3 independent reports, including by a former Supreme Court justice. Hockey Canada confirmed to CBC News that it has completed all of the recommendations in those reports. Sports Canada said it's reviewing that progress, and as of July, the hockey organization has implemented all of the conditions that were part of its enhanced monitoring plan. Despite hitting that mark, Vancouverden said there is no date in mind for when Ottawa will drop its extra monitoring. He wants to see, quote, sustained culture change that Canadians are demanding. We've seen good progress from Hockey Canada in terms of leadership change, in terms of governance change, in terms of their audits, said Adam Vancouverden. He pointed to the mandatory training for all staff, coaches, and athletes competing with Team Canada that's now in place covering sexual violence and consent. He said training is just the bare minimum and that there is a need to change attitudes and behavior. EM and others' courage in coming forward, Vancouverden said, sparked a national conversation about the change needed in not just hockey but all sports. In a statement following last week's ruling, Vancouverden described men's hockey culture as, quote, problematic. Asked by CBC News how he described the culture and what concerns he still has, Vancouverden said he doesn't think the issues he's identified are endemic to men's hockey. I'm concerned with chauvinism, with sexism, treating women as if they're objects or something to be attained rather than one's equal, he said. I don't think that's unique to hockey, unique to sport. I think it's an unfortunate reality that exists in other places, in the workplace, in education, and it needs to be called out, it needs to be recognized, and it needs to change. He added, abuse isn't endemic to men's hockey, and that if a national conversation about how we ought to treat each other starts with hockey, I think that's uniquely Canadian. A fifth state investigation in 2022 found junior hockey players were the subjects of police investigations in at least 15 cases of alleged group sex SA since 1989, half of which surfaced in the past decade. Former junior hockey players and those who studied the sports say these incidents have grown out of a culture that has included the pursuit of women as a team sport that can result in group sex. Laura Robinson, the author of Crossing the Line, Violence and Sexual Assault in Canada's National Sport, said she wants to see Hockey Canada under enhanced monitoring by the federal government until after the Winter Olympics in 2026. She pointed to Hockey Canada's recent announcement I'm having difficulty today. She pointed to Hockey Canada's recent announcement about 18 men selected for roles. Hockey Canada appointed an all-male roster to coach its Olympic and World Junior teams. The new general manager and members of the management group for Hockey Canada's program of excellence are also male. You can't just tick boxes and say we've got women involved now, she said. The program of excellence relies on volunteers that come from a pool of Canadian Hockey League employees. The organization said its managers and coaches, selected volunteers, have tremendous experience working with 15 to 9-year-old male high-performance athletes. It said Chelsea Geldenhaus has been promoted to senior manager of hockey operations for the program of excellence. Hockey Canada said as part of its effort to increase the number of women coaching in Canada, it helped launch a new program to employ student athletes as coaches while playing university women's hockey. The hockey organization also sent CBC News a list of 17 changes it's made since 2022 to address hockey culture and safety, including achieving gender equity on its board of directors, adopting a universal code of conduct to prevent maltreatment in sport, and becoming one of the first organizations to be a full signatory to the Office of Sport Integrity Commissioner. Quote, while important progress has been made since 2022, there is still more work to be done, and we will continue to be transparent and accountable to Canadians as we drive systemic change within our national winter sport, Hockey Canada Chief of Staff Jeremy Knight said in a statement. Hockey Canada said it will, quote, continue to comply with all reporting requests from Sports Canada. So I really like what Adam Vancouverden has to say here. He seems to get it, which is good. His full statement here says, we take note of the independent court's decision today. This is a critical moment in sport, and this case has sparked a national conversation about safe sport and the problematic culture in men's hockey. It is the voices of women and the courage and bravery it takes to come forward that have led to the changes in toxic culture that we are seeing. Since 2022, important progress has been made at Hockey Canada to address longstanding systemic failures. It's critical that this work on safe sport continues across the sports system because we know that when safeguards are weak or absent, real harm occurs. Our government continues to closely monitor national sport organizations and the systemic changes they are undertaking to ensure a culture of safety, respect, and integrity across all sports. So, good that the federal government is not looking, okay, well, you've ticked the boxes. We're going to remove our monitoring right away. And Adam Van Cooverden seems to be taking more of an attitude. That's nice. Thank you for doing that. But we'll believe it when it lasts. So the monitoring stays. Um, I'm down with that. Other letters that have come out at Kits and Cubs, as you know, in Alberta, Danielle Smith is trying to distract from her corrupt care stuff by having this series of town halls called the Alberta Next panel, where a lot of things related to it have been questionable. There's a survey where you have to answer questions, but some of the questions do not allow you to express opposition or displeasure or disapproval for any one of the things that she's mentioning. I believe the panel has 6 themes. Some of them has to do with like the having an Alberta pension and an Alberta police force and all those kinds of things. A lot of things to which people have already said no many times, but she's on this panel trying to manufacture consent for things that she wants to do anyway and fully intends to do anyway because she respects nothing and no one. During these panels, there are these videos that are presented to sort of introduce the topic to people. And there is one having to do with policing. And it seems that the information contained in those videos is not accurate and inaccurate to the point that it has caused the commissioner of the RCMP, Mike Duhem, to write a letter to Danielle Smith. And it goes a little something like this. Dated July 16th, 2025. Dear Premier, I am writing further to the recent launch of the Alberta Next panel, the consultations with respect to the creation of an Alberta Provincial Police Force, and the announcement of a new chief for the Independent Agency Police Service, IAPS. I would like to begin by echoing your comments that Royal Canadian Mounted Police members and public service employees serve with distinction in communities across the province and work tirelessly to keep communities and Albertans safe. I am extremely proud of our dedicated employees who consistently go above and beyond in demonstrating our commitment to uphold public safety. I would also like to acknowledge the concerns that both you and your Deputy Premier and Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services, the Honourable Mike Ellis, have raised with respect to police officer vacancies in Alberta. As you are likely aware, recruitment is my number one priority, and several initiatives are underway to increase the number of cadets that receive training at the RCMP Academy or the Depot. In the Alberta context, the RCMP plans to begin training a dedicated troop of recruits for K Division in September 2025, and we are also establishing additional teams across the country, including one in Calgary, to augment our processing capacity and interact directly with aspiring RCMP regular members. Furthermore, I would like to take this opportunity to clarify some incorrect information that has been included in the material shared by the Alberta Next panel on the RCMP contract policing services in Alberta. Specifically, 1. With respect to the assertion in the video that the Government of Canada sets provincial policing priorities, I would like to clarify that under Article 6 of the Provincial Police Service Agreements, it is the responsibility of the provincial minister to establish the objectives, priorities, and goals of the provincial police services. Neither the Government of Canada nor RCMP headquarters sets the priorities in this regard. Similarly, Article 6 of the Municipal Police Service Agreement enables the elected head of the municipality to set the objectives, priorities, and goals of the municipal police service. In this vein, the RCMP is and has been proud to deliver policing services that reflect the priorities and needs of communities across Alberta. So it seems that either Danielle Smith doesn't know who has the responsibility to establish the objectives, priorities, and goals of the provincial police services, or she's just outright lying to the people about who does. But this is something that you should not be getting wrong, especially if you're creating a public consultation tool and you're talking about this in your public consultation as a manner to pre-frame the discussion before it happens. Which also means that all the input that she's gotten on these matters during her tour until this information is corrected, if it ever is, in these video presentations, are tainted by this lack of disinformation or misinformation, and will be for the other 2 points as well. So how reliable will that data be when she takes and she says, well, see, Albertans do want this police service? Because most of the people that were in the room at the time said they did, even though most of the province said no many times over. She was also supposed to put that to a referendum and then decided she wasn't going to do that. I'm assuming it's because she was confident she would get a yes. Anyway, 2, the statements in the video that regular members in RC and Alberta are prevented from obtaining promotional opportunities within the province on the belief that they must be bilingual is inaccurate. Again, attacking francophones. All commissioned officer positions in Alberta, i.e. at the ranks of Inspector Superintendent, Chief Superintendent, Assistant Commissioner, and Deputy Commissioner, are designated as English Essential and staffed accordingly. In addition, I assure you that the RCMP does not move regular members out of communities on a moment's notice. The process to relocate a member includes careful planning to support them and their families should they choose to pursue another opportunity. This choice is up to each individual member and could occur for a variety of reasons, such as family or personal considerations or professional development opportunities. So, yeah, it seems there that she's saying, well, one of the reasons we need a provincial police force is because you can't get promoted in the RCMP if you don't speak French, and people are asked to move at a moment's notice. Neither of these things actually happen in real life. 3. With respect to the frequently asked questions document, there is an inaccuracy related to the distinction between major crimes and the RCMP's federal policing program. I would like to clarify that in the context of a transition, the RCMP would retain responsibility for investigating criminal activity that poses the highest threat to Canada through its federal policing mandate. The responsibility for major crimes investigations, like homicides, would be retained by the incoming police of jurisdiction, and is currently the case where this service is delivered by the Alberta RCMP as the provincial police service. So, in other words, there's a procedure with regard to this that does apply in the jurisdictions where that particular service is delivered by the Alberta RCMP as the provincial police service. But she doesn't seem to be aware of it, or again is, and lied in order to get the answers that she wants. I also note the concerns raised by both you and Minister Ellis regarding Canada's commitment to the future of the contract policing program, particularly in light of the March 2025 white paper released by the former Prime Minister. Let me be very clear. I and the RCMP are committed to delivery of our 3 core mandates: federal, contract, and specialized policing, now and into the future. This has not changed. We will continue to uphold our commitment to keep our communities safe in Alberta and across the country. So I'm guessing that she did because that evil Trudeau, we're not even sure whether or not there's a commitment to this anymore from the federal side. The RCMP commissioner basically indicating, I'm not sure how you could have ever believed that, because that was never ever in doubt or on the table. In that same vein, I also want to underscore that the RCMP is open to new ideas and is very willing to work with jurisdictions to respond to evolving expectation and needs regarding service delivery models in communities across the country. The recent announcement of a new chief of the IAPS provides a unique opportunity for continued dialogue with Deputy Commissioner Trevin Daru to ensure that the work of the IAPS augments the existing work of the Alberta RCMP. It will be important to clearly delineate the mandates of our respective organizations to avoid confusion and duplication of core duties and functions delivered by the RCMP. To be clear, the RCMP respects the decisions of provinces, territories, and municipalities to review their policing needs and priorities, and even make the decisions to transition away from the RCMP. That being said, it is my belief that contract policing is integral to the RCMP as a national police service, providing a uniform professional standard of policing, access to specialized services, enhanced intelligence collection and dissemination, critical surge capacity to respond to provincial and national emergencies, and importantly, economies of scale for taxpayers. Based on our current experiences, including in Grand Prairie, policing transitions are extremely complex and costly. Should the Alberta Next panel require support to facilitate an informed study of an independent police service, the RCMP can assist in providing data and evidence-based analysis, including the benefits of an integrated policing model and jurisdictional cost share savings under this model. The RCMP remains committed to working directly with all jurisdictions to adapt to local needs while maintaining the trust and confidence required to continue preserving the safety and security of your communities. Yours sincerely, Mike Duhem, Commissioner. And it was CC'd to the Honorable Michael Ellis and Deputy Commissioner Trevor Daru. So, when the RCMP needs to write an open letter saying, you got some stuff wrong, got a lot of stuff wrong, very wrong, and we need to correct the public record. If one assumes the best of intentions, Danielle Smith is extremely sloppy and inattentive and not meticulous in the work that she does. And at the worst of it, she's intentionally, incredibly, and destructively and dangerously duplicitous. But she's somewhere on that spectrum. Yeah. Not a great moment. Then we had Doug Ford. Not on anything, on one thing legal, apparently. It seems that there's a provincial court that has made a decision that Doug Ford's sudden decision to become the mayor of Toronto again, or mayor of Ontario, and wanting to remove Toronto bike lanes because for some reason he is obsessed with that. I have no idea what it is, but then again, as we keep on saying on the show, if it involves cars and booze, Doug Ford's your guy. He's there. If it involves providing you with healthcare, education, or services for children and care, or intervening in any way when a city is being occupied, though, good luck finding him. But it would seem, according to Andy Takaji, I'm going to guess, from the Toronto Star, that Premier Doug Ford's month-long campaign against several Toronto bike lanes was dealt a serious setback Wednesday when a judge ruled the removal would be unconstitutional. A decision by Superior Court Justice Paul Shabas found that sections of the Ontario government's Bill 212, the Reducing Gridlock Saving You Time Act, violated the charter by infringing on cyclists' right to life and security of the person. Part of the bill, which became law in November, calls for the removal of protected bike lanes on Yonge, University, and Bloor Streets. The charter challenge of that plan was launched by cycling advocates, including Cycle Toronto, in December. The government said it will appeal the court's decision. Quote, "We were elected by the people of Ontario with a clear mandate to restore lanes of traffic and get drivers moving by moving bike lanes off of major roads to secondary roads," a spokesperson for Transportation Minister Pramit Sakaria said. In his decision, Shabas found that the government has led no evidence to rebut the applicant's compelling position, supported by evidence that removing the protected bike lanes will cause cyclists to ride in more dangerous mixed traffic, and that cyclists will be injured and worse if protected target bike lanes are removed. The decision does not guarantee the right to a bike lane, nor does it prevent the Ford government from blocking any new bike lanes from being built, Shabas explained in his ruling. Quote, "The government has the right to make decisions about roads and traffic infrastructure," Shabas wrote. "But where the government takes action that puts people at risk and does so arbitrarily, its actions may be restrained by the charter." The Ford government had attempted to work around the charter challenge, changing the legislation in June from "the minister shall remove the bicycle lanes located on Bloor Street, University Avenue, and Yonge Street" to "the minister shall restore a lane for motor vehicle traffic on Bloor Street, University Avenue, and Avenue Road in Yonge Street in the City of Toronto by reconfiguring the bicycle lanes." Reconfiguring would assume that they would still be there, but I guess they mean on side streets and whatnot. But Shabas did not buy the argument from the government that this would render the charter challenge moot. Quote, "I find that any reconfiguring, which has the effect of removing the physical separation of the target bike lanes from motor vehicle traffic for the purpose of reducing congestion, is also a breach of the charter. It is reasonable to conclude that people who cycle will be injured and killed when lanes for motor vehicles are installed and protected bike lanes are removed. Shabbos pointed to expert advice presented by both government and cycling advocates that sorry, pardon me, removal of the bike lanes would substantially increase the number of collisions for all road users and will not achieve the objective of reducing congestion. Shabazz also ordered the government to pay $200,000 in legal fees to the cycling advocates and their legal team. The Ford government's appeal will go to the Ontario Courts of Appeal. It also has the option of using the notwithstanding clause, which it controversially used in 2021 in an attempt to restrict third-party advertising, and in 2022 to preemptively prevent an education worker strike. Michael Longfield, executive director of Cycle Toronto, called the Shabazz's ruling on Wednesday a major victory. I think it's maybe a good moment for the Premier to stop and reconsider, Longfield said. Quote, Canada is facing an unprecedented trade war, and I think there are other things we need the Premier of Ontario focused on and working on rather than obsessing over 19 kilometers of bike lanes and meddling with local politics in Ontario. The Ford government had previously opened the door to finding a compromise with the city to reintroduce vehicle lanes on Bloor, University, and Yonge Streets without removing protected bike lanes. The city is reviewing the court decision and the impact on our ongoing discussions with the province, a spokesperson for Mayor Olivia Chow said in a statement. Mayor Chow maintains that the City of Toronto and its elected council should be the ones making decisions about municipal infrastructure. Doug Ford apparently appears to believe that because he was, it seems to be acting that because I believe I have a mandate, I'm allowed to do this. I don't recall, I know Doug Ford has a long history of raging against bike lanes, but I don't recall him running on this in the last election. I recall him running on Trump, protect Ontario, Trump, protect Ontario, Trump, and not much else. So Doug Ford does not seem to have gotten the message yet, after all these years of being premier, that you believing that you have a mandate to do something does not, let's put it this way, you believing that you have a mandate to do something, whether you do or not, does not allow you to fulfill that mandate in a manner that is unconstitutional. I don't understand this man. Shabazz granted a temporary injunction in April preventing the province from removing the lanes while he decided on the charter case. The province's appeal of that injunction was rejected by a panel of three Superior Court judges on July 9th. Government documents released as part of the injunction hearing warned that removing the bike lanes may not ease congestion and instead could increase the risk of collisions and negatively impact businesses. So government documents have that, and they decided that they were going to do that anyway. That was some of you might die, but that's a risk I am willing to take, Doug Ford basically said. Ford had previously scolded unelected judges taking aim at Shabazz when the bike lane removals were blocked by the injunction and floated the idea of electing judges to the bench. Those comments earned him a rare rebuke from the province's top justices, who reaffirmed the need for judicial independence. So he too got a letter back then. Judges should not determine items like bike lanes because of ideology. They decided to put an injunction in, the premier said at a press conference in May. Enough is enough. Yeah, enough is enough from you, Doug. You might want to zip it. And Doug Ford then got way over his skis again with something else, not related to justice, but doing his best Donald Trump imitation when the Bank of Canada decided that it was not lowering interest rates at this most recent meeting. Doug Ford decided that it was a perfect opportunity for him to run to the web and make a social media comment that was very, very, very concerning. I'm shocked by this decision as we stare down economic uncertainty that's putting hundreds of thousands of jobs at risk. It's never been more important to stimulate economic growth and keep Canadians working. Rather than wait around and let President Trump's tariffs do even more damage to our economy, the Bank of Canada needs to cut interest rates now. Why the fuck, pardon my Swedish, is Doug Ford having any public opinion whatsoever about monetary policy. Completely and totally out of his purview, number one, and shades of Donald Trump. I need you to lower interest rates. You need to lower. You shut up about that. That is none of your business. Unbelievable. And he goes, like, I'm shocked to find out. Really? You're shocked? I don't understand how you're shocked because all the economic data that we've been seeing, GDP coming in higher than expected, more jobs created in the previous month than expected. All of those are like bright, flashing neon arrow signs pointing to there will not be an interest rate cut. There will not be an interest rate cut. Every single newspaper reporting, television news item from Bloomberg to the Financial Post, whatnot, all of them, all the reports from the banks are saying, wow, this new piece of economic data makes it less likely that the Bank of Canada is going to cut interest rates on July 30th. It's all that has been in the news for the last month. There has never been anybody going, there's not been one person going, oh no, I think that the bank is really going to cut rates this time based on all this data. Nobody was saying. There's no galaxy realm alternative reality in which Doug Ford could have been shocked by this decision. None. It was so telegraphed. It was ridiculous. So he's pretending he's shocked, and from his position as Premier of Ontario, basically telling the governors of the Bank of Canada that they need to be cutting interest rates, which is the exact same damn thing that Donald Trump is doing. That Canada is not for sale hat that he had on was an act for a couple of weeks just to get himself reelected. That's it. Nothing more. That man, when I was considering titling the show rather than lane swerving, I was considering calling it Realizing the Value of Shut the Fuck Up. But I assumed that maybe putting STFU in a show title may have gotten us dinged somehow or reduced our reach. So I had to choose lane swerving instead. But Pierre Poilievre, Daniel Smith, Mickey Amory, all of you, please, 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 I beg you, realize that there is value in just keeping your pie holes closed. Not every thought needs to be expressed. My God. These people. A job of a premier, a job of a party leader is big enough without you trying to do everyone else's job as well. And then the final one on this is, again, Daniel Smith and Mickey Amory, again, with regard to the separation issue and referendum questions, because we know that Thomas Lukasik got his question in first, right? And his question was about Alberta remaining in Canada, and now the question has been improved by Elections Alberta, and he's trying to get the signatures on the petition for that, right? Well, the Premier of Alberta, the people that want the question to be about separation instead, submitted their question here, and Daniel Smith and the alleged Minister of Justice of Alberta decided to get involved in that. Alberta's chief electoral officer is rebuffing calls from Premier Daniel Smith and her Justice Minister to reverse course and sign off on a proposed referendum question on separation. On social media, Smith and Justice Minister Mickey Amory said earlier Tuesday that Albertans should be able to embark on gathering signatures without needless bureaucratic red tape or court applications slowing the process. The remarks came after Chief Electoral Officer Gordon McClure announced that he had referred the proposed referendum question on separation to the courts so a judge could decide if it contravenes Canada's constitution. McClure, in a statement Tuesday, responded by saying he is merely following procedure and that the gravity of such a potential referendum invites judicial oversight and close inspection. Quote, in seeking the opinion of the court, the chief electoral officer is fulfilling his duty under the Citizen Initiative Act in an independent, neutral, and nonpartisan manner, he said. The proposed question, which needs McClure's approval before the group behind it can start gathering the signatures necessary to get it on the ballot, seeks a yes or no answer to, quote, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada? Henry says in his post that since the province would ultimately be responsible for implementing any referendum result, the electoral officer's request for judiciary scrutiny is premature. No, it is not. Why would you want to have a vote on a question that might be potentially unconstitutional, then decide that you're going to try and implement it and find out then go then to the court to find out, oh, well, we can't do that because the question, I guess, ask the question about whether or not the question on the referendum is constitutional before holding the damn referendum. Quote, we encourage Elections Alberta to withdraw its court reference and permit Albertans their democratic right to participate in the citizen initiative process. Nobody's denying them their right. It wasn't a no. It's thank you for submitting your question. We will now verify, take some time to consider whether or not the question is constitutional. If it is, you get to go ahead. If it's not, you're going to have to come up with another question. But nobody is denying anybody's right to participate in the citizen initiative process. Smith's post said she agrees with Amory. Oh my God, what a surprise! But adds she believes in Alberta sovereignty with a united Canada. I believe in Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada. But hey, Elections Alberta, could you not do due diligence on the question that asks whether or not Alberta can separate so that I can help my buddies here? It's, again, talking out of both sides of her mouth or out of both faces, and she didn't take care to ensure that either of them was pretty. McClure, in his statement, said the question, quote, is serious and significant and has the potential to have profound impact on all Albertans. He also clarified that he's specifically looking for a judge to rule if the proposed question contravenes specific sections of the Constitution, including the rights set out in the Charter, the enforcement of those rights, and treaty rights. Smith and Amory's comments came after the group that submitted the question called the electoral officer's Monday's decision a delay tactic. So again, impugning the reputation of the chief electoral officer of Alberta. Opposition NDP Deputy Leader Raki Pancholi said in a statement accused Smith and Amory of going against the administration of a law they themselves set in order to appease separatists within the United Conservative Party. Quote, yet again, Danielle Smith and her UCP government's authoritarian tendencies, corruption, and incompetence are on full display, Pancholi said. Mitch Sylvestre with the Alberta Prosperity Project, whose name is attached to the application submitted to the electoral officer, has not responded to interview requests this week. Sylvestre said he thinks interest among Albertans in holding a separation referendum increases with every speaking event his group organizes. Quote, the more people that hear what the message is, the more people that will be in favor, he said in an interview last month. Yeah, but it doesn't mean that there will be enough. Provincial law says a hearing date must be scheduled within 10 days of the court referral, and McClure's office said he would have 30 days after a court ruling is issued to determine if the proposed referendum question meets other legislative requirements. If approved, Sylvestre and the Alberta Prosperity Project would need to collect 177,000 signatures in 4 months to put the question of Alberta separation on the ballot, which is really, really interesting that they would only need 177,000 because Thomas Lukasik, who's asking the question from the other side, needs to get to 293,976 and has only until October 28th. Interesting. In June, the chief electoral officer approved a competing question that seeks to have Alberta make it official policy that the province will never separate from Canada. That petition, put forward by former Alberta Progressive Conservative Deputy Premier Thomas Lukasik, was approved before new provincial rules took effect that lowered the threshold for citizen-initiated referendums to get on ballots. Amory said Tuesday the rule changes were intended to make the process broadly permissive and that McClure's referral to the court didn't match the intent behind the changes. So there you go. Danielle Smith and Mickey Amory, the Minister of Justice, telling the Chief Electoral Officer of Alberta, do not do your due diligence and make sure that this other question is actually constitutional before we put it on a ballot for people to vote on, if they're able to get the signatures required, of course. Again, could you not talk? Could you just decide not to talk? Could you just let people do their jobs without without vilifying someone, and then taking a friend of yours or taking a cause of some people who support you and nailing yourselves to the cross as martyrs? Could you not? Please. Of course, Danielle Smith is a person that thought it was appropriate to take that phone call from Arthur Pawlowski. So, I mean, right. No surprise here with this behavior. But yes, lots of behavior here with trying to interfere with courts and legal systems, and trying to vilify prosecutors and trying to vilify judges. All coming from the conservative side. The allegedly law and order conservative side. It's just shut up. Choose to let a process play itself out. I do not understand what is wrong with these people. Well, I mean, I understand what's wrong with these people. He needs to constantly ensure engagement. That's what's wrong with these people. But yeah, I'm this type of interference in legal issues, this type of direct deception, lying to Canadians about what the law allows and doesn't, what it permits and doesn't, ascribing ill motive to officers of the court, chief electoral officers. It's like working hard to delegitimize court decisions, the judicial process, the principle of guilty until proven innocent, and that we actually have free and fair democratic processes. Just the systematic, constant attack on these fundamental institutions. And for what? We do not have serious people in these positions. We need Canada. We need some damn quality control here. We need to elect a better people. Jeez. All right. Kids and Cubs. I've gone long, and I still had more for you here. But I'm going to say that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. And, well, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially when you include some words of your own when you share our stuff. Because as we keep on saying, you are influencers in your own community. If you would like us to help you, because you are definitely a beaver or a cub who is on the go, participating in democracy, making things happen, well, kids and cubs, we are ready to do that because sometimes you're not even available to be able to watch our show live with the DAMFAM or at your own convenience. But you want your daily dose of beaver. So take us with you. Thanks to the Ray Girl, you can. She has ensured that we are portable. If you scan this QR code, it will bring you to our podcast page, and that is podcast.com/the true north eager beaver. Sorry, podcast, pod page. sorry, I should know this by now. Podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off I'm tripping over my tongue today, over the podcast bandwidth, it comes directly to your favorite podcast feed. You don't have to go looking for it. We come to you, and that way you can just pop us in your ears and take us with you when you need to go out. And so you can still keep abreast and be informed while taking on the day. So thank you for all of you who do listen to us on audio cast as well as video cast. Kids and Cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, maybe you would like to take a trip on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where 20,200 of you have so far, and play with our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Give them a little smash. We like it when we do. We like it when you do that, and it makes us very, very happy. Plus, it helps us with the algorithm. So thank you very much. If you would like to help us in other ways, hey, it's a bright, fresh new month. And if you happen to have a little bit of extra coinage jingling in your pocket and you like what we do and you would like to encourage us to do more, a little donation to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, in order to keep your favorite beaver moist, would be greatly, greatly appreciated. You will earn our undying gratitude. And because tipping is very, very sexy, it seems that our lab reports, we've just done some extra testing on it. And yes, it still increases your sex appeal by 20.83%. Our lab results have been confirmed over again. So if you're feeling sexy, or if you want to feel sexy, a little tip sometimes can do the trick. Coffee, ko-fi.com, Eager Beaver, all in one word. Leave us a little something. When the change hits the bottom of our tip jar, we get a little happy. And plus, we get a little warm fuzzy because, it's love. And we love love here at the Beaver Lodge. So thank you to all of you who offer us your generous support, particularly, pardon me, my nose is itchy, regular donors who contribute more than once. We see you, and we very, very, very do much appreciate you. You are essential to us doing what it is that we do. So thank you for all of that. If you are not able to contribute financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us, and we love to hear from you. So please write to us. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address, and you can send us what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly. Please be gentle, or some suggestions for guests. If you people you'd like to hear from, we try to get them on for you and have some conversations. So, kids and cubs, please do write us there and let us know what you think. And if you happen to be buying Canadian and do want to support us financially, that I'm having lots of trouble today. That same email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, is the address to which you can send a direct bank transfer from your bank to ours. 100% Canadian transaction, no US based CE Tech Pro takes a middleman cut, and we get 100% of your donation. So thank you for your generous support if you are contributing that way. If you want to reach us via our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, also on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on our Facebook page, our original home, and of course, if you happen to be watching on YouTube, right down here in the comments section, leave us a little word. We read absolutely everything that you write to us, even though we're not able to respond to everyone. And kids and cubs, all of your donations, whether they be financial or in word, go back into the show in order to make it better. And we do thank you for everything that you do to support us in all the ways that you support us. Every single one is meaningful, and we wouldn't be where we are without you. So we are grateful for you every damn day. Huh? 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 Kids and cubs. Words of because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs. Forever Canadian. If you happen to be in Alberta, the drive is on. Kids and cubs, the drive is on. So please, if you can, do go to this website here, forever-canadian.ca, www.forever-canadian.ca. And if you happen to be living in Alberta and can help volunteer, or if you want to pre-pledge while they're getting the actual petitions ready to sign that petition, again, they need up to 300,000, close to 300,000, like 293,000 something, close to 294 exactly. But you're going to need much more because, as we mentioned, Danielle Smith will probably try every unhanded trick in the book to try to invalidate as many signatures as she can while claiming she still supports Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada. My eye. Yes, they're going to need volunteers, and they're definitely going to need a lot of people in Alberta to sign up to be canvassers in order to get that many signatures. So if you happen to be living in Wild Rose Country and listening to this show, and you've wanted an opportunity to do some democracy, go to forever-canadian.ca and sign up to be a volunteer, sign up to be a canvasser, and go out and get the signatures, especially, if you are proud to be a Canadian. I'm sure that you have, again, because you're influencers in your circle, you know a lot of people who are also proud to be Canadian and would be quite happy to put their signature on such a petition. So right now the country needs you. So if you can help, please do, and sign up, become a canvasser or a volunteer in any other capacity in order to be sure that we do what we need to do to nip this in the bud. I thank you very much for anything that you are able to do to help with that. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. I'm a little devoid of wisdom today. I will be totally honest. But if I have to draw from personal life, if you have someone close to you at some point who needs to go away for a while and you're going to be apart, miss them. Yes, absolutely. You could have a little melancholy that they are leaving, but there's also an opportunity in that. And says, while my beaver sweetie will be away, I will be taking the opportunity to pursue some activities that I enjoy that I sometimes don't have time for because I'm a dedicated sweetie myself. And so, yes, I will be spending time with some friends, from high school and university area that I don't get a chance to see a lot of and stuff like that. We go for dinners and stuff like that. So I'm taking advantage of the time that I'm alone to not focus on being lonely and on missing my sweetie, but to reconnect and spend some time with other people that I love and enjoy and don't have as much time for. So I'm not looking at it as losing something, but as an opportunity to do something else, knowing that my beaver sweetie will be back and that cuddles will resume at the beginning of September. So, kids and cubs, again, when something can't be for a while, it sometimes creates room for something else that brings you joy as well, but you haven't had time for. So use the time wisely and go get yourself some happy. All right. It could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now at the count of 3, if you would, please, a little Mr. Beaver, cue the cock, would be very, very appreciated. 1, 2, 3. Delivered with a spoonful of sugar. The medicine went down so well. How can I resist? You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster. Hot pepper sauce is made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, before we go, since we're already past the 2 hour mark anyway, a little bit of Canadians who make us proud. The other night was Jeannie Bouchard's last tennis match as she's competing at the National Bank Open and did win her first match. And you know what? She did really well in the second match, too. She was very close to eliminating from the tournament the number 20 player in the world, Belinda Bencic, who's a very, very, very good player. Eugenie Bouchard sent it 2-3 full sets. It was an exciting and very thrilling match that made a lot of people wonder, listen, if you can beat top 100 players still after not playing that much, after, for so long, and if you can come this close to taking out a world top 20, are you sure you want to retire? You sure? And she says, everyone keeps asking me that. My sister said she started a petition with fans in the crowd and everyone signed it. So now I have no choice but to rescind my retirement. But there's a lot of hard work that goes into tennis. It was great to be able to perform well, but it's such a tough life of sacrifice and hard work. I've given so much to tennis and it's given me so much, but I do feel ready to move on from that and do other things in life. But I will be forever grateful for what tennis has given me. So, despite the fact that she was playing kick ass, she could still be easily a top 50 player if she was if her heart was still in it at this point, and be very competitive. But she has decided to move on, but not before giving us a lot of thrills one last time. It was a really exciting match, and it was looking like she was going to pull it out there at the from there. I was like sitting there, come on, like just one more match, just keep it going. She had joked out loud that if she happened to win the whole tournament, she might reconsider retiring. And I was sitting there, it's like, go on, girl, go win it all. Why not? It would have been an incredible story. All the singles players as of the day before yesterday. I do not know about yesterday because I was away at Mary Poppins, so I don't know the scores. I didn't want to know the scores because Victoria Mboko was still left in the draw, and I want to be able to watch her match, which I will do later today. So I don't know if she's won or lost, but all the singles players had been eliminated except for her at that point in the tournament. We're still having a tough time with our best players. Leila Annie Fernandez was eliminated in the first round, as you know, but with a weird scheduling thing immediately after winning a tournament in Washington, D.C. Gabriela Dabrowski, who was ranked number 2 in the doubles tournament, lost in her first round match. Felix Auger-Aliassime lost in his technically he entered in the second round, but his first match of the tournament. And Denis Shapovalov also lost in the first round there. So our 4 best tennis players, highest ranked tennis players, all exited early. All the excitement came from everyone else. Oh, I believe that Gabriel Diallo is also still in the draw for the men, if I'm remembering correctly. And then there are some men's doubles teams that are playing. All our Canadian women's doubles teams lost on day 1 of the doubles tournament, so they're all eliminated. And in the men's tournament, Felix Auger-Aliassime and Denis Shapovalov were supposed to play doubles together, but for some reason withdrew from the tournament after both losing their first round matches, which I found really surprising because I would have assumed if they were out of singles early, then they would have teamed up in doubles and tried to make a go of it to win the title, since they weren't having to play, do double duty and gets more matches under your feet for the tournaments to come, because the U.S. Open, the last Grand Slam, is coming. But they decided to pull out for some reason, which was very disappointing. because they're very good together as a doubles team. So that's what's going on here at the Canadian Open and at the World Aquatics Championships. Again, just some so close results. Kylie Mass picked up another fourth place in the 50-meter backstroke, so fourth place in the 50 and fourth place in the 100. Caitlin Fung finished fourth in the 10-meter diving platform competition. The 4x200-meter freestyle team for women ended up sixth in the final, and yesterday Blake Tierney qualified second for the 200-meter backstroke men. So maybe a medal in the pool coming from Blake Tierney. I think that it would be his first World Championship medal if he does. But when the 200-meter men's backstroke comes on, keep your eyes on the screen, kids and cubs, because if you qualify second, that means there is some medal potential in there, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for him. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I got for now. I'm going off to enjoy the weekend and spending the last couple of hours with my beaver sweetie before he has to hit the road. So I'm going to say amour et bisous, and we will see you on Monday with Mr. Grizzly, who will be there because it's a holiday here and we'll not have to go into work. So we will have Mr. Grizzly in the morning on Monday. I'm very much looking forward to that, and I hope you are too. All right, guys, I'm off. Everyone, big love.